Okay, so let's move on to part 2 of this beginner's guide to Kriya Yoga. And I know many of you are probably chomping at the bit, itching to get that one special technique that's going to make it all better for you. And we're not actually going to get to that for a few videos. However, previously on this YouTube channel, youtube.com/Kriya Yoga Online, I've already done a whole series on preliminary Kriya Yoga meditation techniques and Kriya Yoga pranayama techniques. So if you go to the playlists within this YouTube channel and find I think it's Introduction to Kriya Yoga, anyway, it'll be obvious when you see it. You can go ahead and start learning more about the specific techniques and how to apply them as we proceed with this this new course. So what are we going to discuss today? Well, you know, I covered this quite a bit within the book Kriya Yoga Vichara, but I think it's worth revisiting. We need to understand the why of why you want to practice and why you want to participate in Kriya Yoga meditation techniques. We also need to discuss how to have a plan and how to commit to a practice. So first of all, let's start with the why. You need to stop and think about, why is it that you've been drawn to meditation in the first place? Why is it that you've been drawn specifically to Kriya Yoga practices? Maybe you've read Autobiography of a Yogi, or you saw some sage-like individual talking on YouTube, and you thought, that's inspiring, I want to be like that sage-like individual, or whatever it may be. Or maybe you're in pain, and you're thinking spirituality will get you out of pain. Or maybe you just have an extreme desire to unite with and be with your concept of God, divine consciousness. Maybe you have philosophical questions that need to be answered. These are all reasons that usually take one to the spiritual path. And I was drawn to meditation because for much of my life I've always been curious about what's it all about, what's the reason, why are we here? I studied psychology and philosophy in college, and I found that most of the philosophers that I studied, even though they were brilliant minds, really didn't seem to have a direct answer to that question. And so I saw the limitations of philosophy. I think it's a beautiful thing, and I think it's a wonderful thing, especially matched up with contemplative processes. But I saw the limitations, and it was towards probably my second or third year in college when I was first seriously thinking about learning to meditate. It took me another year or so before I got on the ball with it. But I decided I needed to explore this because it seemed that many of these mystics that I read about, that they actually had the answers. Even though they didn't make a whole lot of sense to me, even though they seemed kind of crazy, it seemed like they knew something. And I thought to myself, well, that sounds good. I would like to know that, and I think I can. So how do I do it? So luckily, a few years later, someone introduced me to the book Autobiography of a Yogi, which I devoured, I fell in love with. And I began meditating once I read that book. And it was a little while, maybe 6 to 9 months, before I actually was initiated into Kriya Yoga processes and began the official Kriya Yoga procedures that Yogananda talks about. But at that time, I knew that it was important for me, personally, because I had philosophical questions. I saw psychology and how it didn't really seem to help people in the long run, in the ultimate bigger sense, in the same way that modern medicine is wonderful to go to if your arm's been chopped off, or if you need something cut out, or if you need stitched up, things of this nature, or if you've got a virus or bacteria. Modern medicine seems to do wonderful with those kinds of things. But when it comes to like long-term health, long-term vibrant health, at least at this point in time in our culture, it's not necessarily, doesn't seem to have all the answers. So anyway, point being, I thought that same thing about psychology, that if you've got an acute trauma, if you're depressed, if you're anxious, well, talk therapy, even Gestalt therapy, EMDR, now somatic experiencing, these psychological approaches are very good at helping you to move through those acute instances. But they still don't answer the bigger picture. And why is that? Because psychology addresses the mind. And the mind is just a collection of thoughts and your personality and those sorts of things. And we need that to be healthy. We need that to be fine-tuned so that we can express joyfully within this world, this wholeness of life that we are an aspect of. We need that. So psychology, modern medicine, wonderful things. But they don't answer the bigger questions. And I wanted those bigger questions answered. I felt it within my heart. I felt it within my bones that it was possible to access the answers to those bigger questions I had. The big why, essentially. Which is funny because once you ask that question enough and you meditate on it, you realize there is no why. But that's for a whole nother discussion. So that was my motivation. I wanted to know. I was not satisfied with life. I was not satisfied with the rise and fall. I was not satisfied with the pleasures that came and went. I knew there had to be something more to it. So you have to ask yourself, what is your motivation? And it doesn't matter what your motivation is, as long as you know what it is, because it's that motivation which is going to inspire you to get up every morning at 6 a.m. or 4 a.m. or whatever you decide and sit down and meditate whether you want to or not. It's going to be that motivation which allows you to say, well, this particular experience is not supportive of my inner realization, so I'm going to get rid of it. Because you are directing your awareness to that which is important to you. So you have to define what is important to you. Why are you doing this? If you know that, that is the key. Don't do it because your friends are doing it. Don't do it because you want to look like a holy person or have mystical powers to manifest things. I guess if you want to start there, but you'll delay the process a lot if those are the reasons. Do it because of something personal for you that you don't talk about with anyone else. That is not something you go around and share with everybody. It's your own personal flame that you have to tend to through silence, that you have to tend to through your committed practice that no one else knows about. This is totally and utterly for you. The more you talk about your spirituality, the more you try to fit into groups with spirituality, you're not involved in spirituality, you're involved in entertainment and trying to belong somewhere. And if you want to belong somewhere, go join a club. Okay? If you want to belong somewhere, go join a club. Belonging is not the reason to do this. I mean, there are plenty of organizations and situations that will give you that opportunity, but from my personal experience, that is a misguided reason to want to be involved in advanced Kriya Yoga spirituality. So find your reason, make it a personal reason, one that you don't talk about with anyone else. Write it down in a book, journal about it, contemplate it, think about it. And every morning, remember, this is why I'm meditating. This is why I'm putting so much attention to this personal development process. This is why I want to abide as the self. It's your personal thing. And you have to commit to the process. Commit to the process. Your why is what motivates you to commit. When I first began meditating, again, I discussed this in the book Kriya Yoga, Vichara, for maybe the first 6 months or so, I realized that I could not sleep in the same room with my girlfriend at the time, now my wife, and we've been married for quite a few years now. But I could not sleep in the same room with her because when I would do that, I would sleep in. I didn't want to get out of bed. It was comfortable. It was lovely. It was like, why would you want to leave that? So I had to have a talk, and I said, look, I love you. This is extremely important for me to have this relationship with you. I explained how much she meant to me. I said, but I need to go sleep in the other room because I want to get up early, 5 a.m., 6 a.m., so that I can meditate. And I'm having a hard time doing that, sleeping here with you. All right. And of course, there were some initial hurt feelings, but we were able to work it out and understand each other in that regard. And I was able to get up every morning and meditate 5 a.m., 6 a.m. The point is that you might have to make decisions and choices that support your process above all else. And you have to ask yourself, is it important to me to sleep in to stay with my spouse in bed and not meditate? Or is it important to me to love my spouse, to be appropriate in all ways, but say, hey, look, this is important to me, and I need to do this so that I can attend to my path, my personal path. In the same way that after I was initiated into the process, I'd been in college and I did the things college people do. I enjoyed my fair share of beer, and enjoyed my fair share of wings and hamburgers and whatnot. And once I was committed to this path, I became a vegetarian, a very hardcore vegetarian, for about 5 to 6 years. And I also gave up any kind of alcoholic substance, period. I did it like that because I knew it was important to me to clear my mind, that would help me clear my mind. Okay, I needed to do it to help clear my mind. And so I lost a bunch of friends. They said, you're doing what? Because I was a master griller. If you put me in front of a grill with some sauces and some good meat, I could create a feast like you would not believe. And so here I am telling my friends, all right, sorry fellas, we can grill some carrots if you want. And I lost a lot of my friends because of this, but it was okay, because I realized that if they were still my friends, they would honor and respect this, and I could still participate with them in other ways. But anyway, these are the kind of sacrifices that the person has to make because of your commitment. You have to ask yourself, is it important for me to have these friends that I'm going to spend this kind of time with, or to do these things with, or is it more important for me to attend to my inner process? And just be honest with yourself. If it's important for you to have the friendships that you always have, to do the things that you've always done, fine, just do that. No problem. That's what this infinite abstract intelligence wants to do through you right now. But if deep down inside you have this inspiration, this calling, this feeling like, I need to make some changes, and I need to take this seriously, listen to that and make the sacrifices, and it'll be worth it in the end. At least I'm pretty sure it will be. It was for me. I'm not going to speak for everybody here. But anyway, the point I'm trying to get at is, as you attend to this process, as you move forward into your contemplation of why are you doing this, you will need to make sacrifices. And we have to remember, those of you that don't know, I'm an astrologer. That's my profession. That's actually what I do as work. Day in, day out, I'm an astrologer. And in astrology, the sun is the planet of our soul nature. It's that pure light. But the sun is also the planet of sacrifice. And not sacrifice as in, I'm going to punish you kind of sacrifice. It's in, what are you willing to sacrifice for that clarity? What are you willing to sacrifice for that inspiration, for that greater goal, that greater good? That is the sun. So as you attend to your inner work, you will be called upon to make sacrifices for something greater. Doesn't mean that you have to be difficult with people or say, I cannot be around you if you do this. You just say things like, I love you, you are my friend, but I'm just not going to participate in this behavior with you anymore. And if they can't handle it, well, you've learned something. If they can, well, then you've learned that you've got a great friendship there. And we'll talk more about relationships as we get further into our exploration of this beginner's work to Kriya Yoga. But remember, part of the path will be sacrifice. And what you'll find, though, is that the personal sacrifices lead to a greater sense of inner poise and peace, like you could not have ever imagined. So, to conclude, for our particular thoughts today, ask yourself why. Why are you interested in meditating? Why are you interested in this self-development? Why is it important to you? Write it down. Remember it. Let it be that flame that you keep personally to yourself. And then start contemplating, what kind of commitment, how can I make a commitment to meditating every morning? What do I need to do to make that happen? What sacrifices do I have to make? Do I have to make the sacrifice of going to bed earlier? Do I have to make the sacrifice of eating earlier in the day or eating a better diet so that I'm not as groggy in the morning? Do I have to make the sacrifice of maybe doing a little bit of exercise in the morning to wake up my mind so that I can actually concentrate and focus and contemplate? What do you need to do to prepare the ground so that you are ready to attend to your inner work? What do you have to do? So contemplate that until next time.